here with Jade. This is our first podcast, and this is actual Jade. So the reason we're doing this is because Jade's met two serial killers, which is a bit mental, isn't it? It's mad.
Mental, yeah.
Think about that for a sec. So I'm just going to interview Jade about that. So the first one was it the Spanish killer?
What? No, it was the bloke with the van who had a dead body, a French girl in the back. But he wasn't a serial killer. He was only done for one.
It was the first time. But okay, so you work out whether he was going to do it again.
He was dead.
Yeah, but we'll leave it to them. Yeah, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Anyway, so Jade.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, and it's good that he was the first one because the second one's better. Just and subscribe and hit the like button.
Oh yeah, hit like if you like the story.
Anyway, so Jade, so start from the beginning with the first one.
Okay, so I was at the pub and I was under a gazebo. There was nobody there. I was just sat on a bench and some bloke came and sat right next to me, uncomfortably close. Sat right next to me, and rather than say hi, I'm Stuart or anything like that, he just suddenly started saying, "Have you heard about the French girl that went missing? I'm just really feeling it for their parents. I just think, oh my God, imagine losing your daughter." And I'd not heard about this, a bit weird. And I thought that's a really weird way to start the conversation for a start. So it made me uncomfortable. So I was 18, really uncomfortable. And then he went on and on and on about it. Like he talked about literally nothing else. And he said, "Can I get you a drink?" And he was practically sat on my lap, and I was just trying to shuffle away a bit.
First of all, bad way to chat somebody up without listening to anything you had to say.
He didn't even ask me anything. It's just freaky. He's really, he was definitely a
first red flag.
Yeah, red flag. But you don't think serial killer. Obviously, that's not your first thought. But anyway, I thought he said, "Can I get you a drink?" And I said, "Oh no, thank you." And he said, "Oh no, please let me get you a drink. Let me get you a drink." And he really hassled me. I thought if I let him get me a drink, then when he goes to the bar, I can run away. Which I did. So he went to get me a drink. I went to the next pub, ran away where my mum was.
And left a full pint as well. So
yeah, so he's there with his pint for him and pint for me. And he found me in the next pub and stood there and started staring at me like in a real nasty, evil way by the pillar, just leaning on the pillar staring.
Which is still, you'd think, just an odd weirdo.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, the first first meeting was
But there's
odd.
plenty of odd weirdos.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, you don't think serial killer, obviously. You don't think murderer, do you? Even though I was a bit disturbed about how... He went on for, I reckon, about 20 minutes about this French girl.
But now you probably do because it's happened twice. So.
Yes, this is the first one. So then later on I found out that he had the French girl dead in the back of his van. And then the second one.
No, because... He you were his next target.
They didn't catch him to start with. So it was I think it was probably about, so I was 18, so it's a long time ago, but I think it was about 6 weeks or something before they actually caught the bloke. And he'd had her in the back of his van for a long time decomposing.
And actually, when he was talking to you about, have you heard about this French girl? It wasn't on the news
I
yet.
didn't know because I looked it up because I thought this is really weird, and I looked it up and I couldn't find anything about it. It was before the internet though. I'm not well old.
But anyway, he chose you as the next target, and
he stalked me. After that, he stalked me. So every time I went to the pub, he was standing there and he was staring at me in a real horrible, hateful way. And anyone I spoke to, including my mum, he went over and said, "I want to eat your daughter." Things like that. He would say terrible things.
You can say you don't like.
I don't like saying that word.
Okay, all right.
It's horrible. So all my friends and stuff like that, and my mum went, "Oh," but my friend said, "You want to fuck off," like really, really aggressively. But he just stood there and stared at me every single time, really, really horribly.
But you still don't think it's serial killer. It's one of those things where you go, "It's a
I
weirdo."
thought I'm not walking outside on my own. It was that scary, but that's it. I didn't think serial killer. But anyway, yeah. Then he was arrested, and he dumped the body. It had been in the back of his truck for a while. He dumped the body, and he was a murderer. But he was the first.
But he also spent it was like 2 or 3 weeks where every time you saw him, he was just intensely staring at you.
Yeah, he didn't have any mates with him. He just went to the pub on his own and just stood there, glaring at me in a really evil, horrible, horrible way.
And your mate went over and said, like, "Why don't you fuck off?" And he said, I want to
Yeah,
eat a
he said the horrible thing. Yeah, he's disgusting. He was just vile.
So you were basically a target, and he got arrested before you were murdered.
Yeah, I reckon he would definitely murdered me.
And after that, obviously that's quite something. But then
And then
another one.
another one.
If anybody knows or has heard of somebody meeting 2 serial killers, write in.
Hit like. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one was like massive, like it was in the news and like the Spanish murderer.
That's yours actually, Chief, not mine. So yeah, that Tony King. So he was the Holloway Strangler to start with, and he raped and strangled those women, and he got out of prison, did it again, and was about to be rearrested, and he ran off to Spain, and became just Tony King. I think he changed his name actually. I think he changed his name to Tony King. Murdered somebody, got away with it because the girl that got murdered, her mother's lesbian girlfriend went to prison for it, so he got away with that.
5 years.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know how many years actually exactly, but yeah, for a really long time.
And there's a big documentary about that one.
Yeah.
But again, you're sat in a pub, but this wasn't it wasn't weird. So just somebody came up and started chatting.
No, because I was living in Spain at the time in Arenal Grande, and he worked behind a bar, and he was a nice enough bloke. I thought.
Bit boring and.
Yeah, he was like muscly, and I thought he was like on too many steroids because he had a really high pitched voice.
And a bit.
Nice
you said like a bit odd, but not odd. Like but not
scary odd.
No, not even like freaky odd. Just like a bit of a. You know,
yeah.
But actually,
Sando.
but also like an interesting person because he's a bit sort of maybe a little bit nervous and. You don't talk to many people, so the fact that you talk to him.
Well, because he talked to me, it wasn't because I instigated it.
Okay.
Again, I didn't instigate it, but he was always come and speak to me, and. You know,
but it wasn't annoying. It was okay.
No, I thought it was just a bit of a saddo, really. And one time I found him in a cafe and he was crying his eyes out, and I got him a cup of coffee and we sat there. And
that was the day that you found out later he'd murdered someone.
Yeah, he'd murdered some 19-year-old girl.
But he was crying and talking about his daughter's teddy.
Yeah, he was making out it's because he hadn't seen his daughter for ages, and his ex-girlfriend wouldn't let him see his daughter, but it was something else.
He could have said like it is about my daughter. Also, I murdered someone.
There's other things. Yeah, because he wouldn't go into actual detail about it either. So yeah, but obviously you don't know that until at the time. And then later on at the Farrier, we didn't know it was him. So it was a couple of weeks before they caught him. But we went. And
everyone's freaking out. Also, I think we should also say that there was almost riots and English people were scared because an English person was doing some bad shit and
then the Spanish community just got together. They grouped together. They were looking for evidence, and they were up in an uproar. And I think the English community that was there got scared when they found out that it was him because he's English, and they thought because they're so community orientated, they got really angry.
We've skipped a bit actually. That was when he got caught.
Did that.
I know. I think I got it wrong.
So so there was one day when I went into the pub, we all wanted to know who this murderer was. He'd murdered her, but basically run her over, and
they should have said ask Jade.
Yeah,
she's got a form.
Yeah, hang on a minute, it must be one of them, mate. But so he ran her over, took her under a bridge, raped her and stuff, and murdered her, and she was about 19. So everyone wanted to know who the hell this was. And I went to the pub that day, and they said, "Oh, it was one of not from Arenal Grande," and they said. It was him, it was Tony King. Costa del Sol killer, they call him now.
That's fucking mental.
Oh, I know. And suddenly this English bloke barged into the bar and said, all the English people, we've got to get out of here because we're going to be murdered by the Spanish. Which obviously way over the top, totally way over the top. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah, so...
The old mate Tone.
Yeah, so we did this podcast. We're not very good at it. This is like the first podcast, but that's quite a bizarre story. And, I mean, 2 serial killers.
I mean, I think it's quite interesting to have met 2 serial killers, but I think we should move on to the embarrassing stories now.
Yeah, but hold on. No, this is this podcast about the serial killer.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
The 2.
Yeah,
I think that's quite that's quite enough for one day.
Yeah, it is.
All right,
so bye.
so this
Don't
is
forget to hit like.
Signing out.